Hey there, let's talk about translating, the act of translating. I'm pretty sure that you've heard lots of language teachers talking about the subject, not only English teachers, but language teachers in general. You will hear different opinions, and I think that's okay. However, there's one thing that really bugs me. Bugs me means annoys me. One thing that makes me annoyed is when people say that it's not possible to stop translating, that you never do it. If English is your second language, you are always going to use your native language first, so Portuguese in our case, and then you will translate and then say it or write it in English. And it's not true. It's not true. I might have to repeat that a few times because it's not true. And the reason why I can say that it's not true, it really isn't true, is the fact that I'm here talking to you, or when I have a conversation with people in English, I don't think in Portuguese first and then do the whole process of translating and then say it in English. I don't do that. It's not something easy that happens overnight. That's not what I'm trying to say here. But it's possible. It's definitely possible. Because I do it, I know a lot of people that do it, so I know that people can do it. And it really bugs me when people say that you can't. It's a process like everything in life. It doesn't happen overnight. It's important to remember this. But it's something that at some point, if you have been studying English for a while, it's something that you have to try. Because since it is a process and it is going to take some time for you to be able to do it, well, the sooner you start, the easier it's going to be. Because the real problem is when you study English for a long period of time. So maybe you've been studying English for 4 years and you still feel stuck. You still feel like when you want to have a conversation with people, the words just disappear. It's because you are not used to speaking in English. And let's face it, at the beginning, it really helps if your teacher can speak your native language. Of course it helps. However, after some time, you have to slowly change this habit, because at some point you have to start, because it is possible. And if it takes some time, if it's a process, I'm going to say it again, just start. You have to start. So how do you do that? Well, start with simple things, especially if you study by yourself, for example. With my students, I like to develop a few different plans, but basically 2 things are very important. So the first one is language exposure. So forget learning English in Portuguese. It's time to study English in English. And the second thing is that you really have to practice. And I'm not talking about simple exercises that you just have to complete something. I'm talking about real things that actually happen during life. So personal opinions, memories, things that you want to do. So when you start to describe these things, I think it helps that it's something personal, so that you don't have to make up a story. You're talking about something real. And if you write about these things first, it also really helps. Because if you write, you start to remember better the structure of the sentences. So when you speak, you don't just throw words, I think that sometimes people can still understand you if you just say words instead of the sentences. You use your hands and your expressions, and that's okay. But come on, at some point, you gotta start speaking in a more consistent way. So again, language exposure and practice, real practice. If you don't do that, then maybe I'm not gonna say it's impossible, but yeah, it's going to be harder to change this habit of translating.